This is the Peace Corps Jamaica Voices podcast. If you want to know more about Peace Corps and the work that they are doing here in Jamaica, join us on this amazing journey to learn more. Peace Corps Jamaica, world peace and friendship. Welcome one and all to this wonderful podcast, Peace Corps Jamaica Voices. And I'm telling you, this will be a tremendous journey. This podcast is about sharing great conversation, telling stories, and showing how important of service and what service can do in terms of community development and nation building. And on the first episode of this podcast, we'll be speaking with Kali, who is an outgoing Peace Corps Jamaica volunteer. I'm dying to hear her story, people. I'm dying to hear her story. So just stick around and enjoy, and definitely, you can always send in your comments and stuff, and we read it on the upcoming episode and such. So we'd like to welcome Kali to the Peace Corps Jamaica Voices podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Shava. Great to be there today. Yes.
All right, lovely. Yes. I'm happy to hear that. But before we get into the meat of the matter, tell us a little bit about you. Who is Kali, where you're from, and your background in terms of education and state and so forth.
All right, cool. Yeah, so I'm kind of from all over the west of America. Yes. I was born in Colorado, spent most of my childhood in Hawaii, and then high school in Utah, yeah, and college in Utah.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah.
So what did you study in college?
I studied landscape architecture, so I am a landscape architect, not licensed as yet.
Okay.
Yes, but I worked a couple of years at a firm in Houston before deciding to join the Peace Corps.
Okay, beautiful. All right, so with that said, so why did you choose Peace Corps, and ultimately why did you choose Jamaica as your post to work or serve, rather?
Yes, so at my previous job, I was just feeling a little bit unfulfilled, I guess you could say, with the design work I was doing. We were doing a lot of projects for very large, wealthy developers, and our clientele was kind of geared towards, the uber wealthy people of Houston, Texas, and it just felt like a lot of gentrifying to me, and that's not exactly what I wanted to do with my career. I really wanted to help people and, bring people up with the built environment. Yes. And I started looking into other opportunities, found the Peace Corps. It was something I had kind of learned about in college, and you kind of grow up hearing about the Peace Corps too when you're in the U.S.
Okay, I understand.
Yes, but I'd never really thought about it as an option, but then I just kind of started browsing the website and reading Reddit posts about service, and I just really started gravitating towards it. So I sent in my application. I was just kind of in a space where I was ready to go anywhere. So I just sent the send me anywhere application. I was like, universe, let me know where I should go. And I was assigned to Jamaica, and I accepted the position in a heartbeat. And next thing you know, midday up on the rocks. So
all right, beautiful. All right, so so that's great though. That's great to know. All right, so you were told that you're going to Jamaica, and you said you accepted it with an open heart. So what was the reality coming to Jamaica in terms of some of those feelings and thought you would have before coming to Jamaica versus when you come here now? How did it match up in terms of the reality?
Yeah, true. I feel like I honestly went in kind of blind to what the true Jamaica is. I feel like most of what you hear is the resorts, the beaches, Bob Marley, everything, which still true. Still amazing beaches in Jamaica, and we love Bob Marley, love the music.
Definitely.
But Jamaica, there's something about Jamaica, I love it, it gets under my skin in a really good kind of a way. There's just a certain edge and a spice to living in Jamaica. There's this really fast, specific rhythm to, I feel navigating the streets and getting in and out of the taxis, and like everybody's chatting patois and it's so fast, and like there's just such an energy to this island. I love being here.
I'm really happy to know that it seems like, as the Rasta would say, you're full joy in yourself.
Exactly,
Yeah.
full joy.
World peace and friendship.
Alright, so let us get into the sector. So you're in, what sector are you in?
Agriculture.
Okay, so describe your sector and tell me some of the work that you have been doing in your community.
Yeah, so one thing about the agriculture sector is it is very broad, basically, of kind of the work that you can get involved in. So we have our kind of overall framework, working with our farmers group, and we kind of try to focus projects that fall under like building organizational capacity, increasing income and like business acumen for farmers, and then kind of more environmental impacts of agriculture, so trying to promote water conservation and like soil conservation practices. So that's a huge umbrella of work to fall under. And I think a lot of what I've been able to do with my farmers group is I work in St. Elizabeth, and as you know, Sainty, it's the breadbasket parish. So I came in working with farmers that were already like well equipped in terms of skills and knowledge. All my farmers are rotating their crops, as you know, that's really good for the soil, keep up the nutrients and everything. They're planting on contour, they use drip irrigation, they're rainwater harvesting, you know, as they can. So highly skilled farmers, very well trained. So I kind of felt like there wasn't so much I could do to like in the environmental sense. So yeah, we kind of focus more on building the organizational capacity. So getting the farmers group to meet once a month regularly, right? Establish an overall vision and like mission statement of what the farmer group wants to accomplish. We're still working on actually establishing that vision, but you know, it's on their mind. Exactly.
So you get the group to start to meet on a regular basis?
Yes. And we like to establish specific leadership roles for, you know, a few really engaged members of the group, and they kind of help bring everybody else in the community together.
Okay, nice. So would you say that your background that you came here with, did it help you in terms of what you are doing within the community?
Yes, I definitely think it did. I definitely could have come here with a lot more experience, I think specifically in agriculture, but I do feel like with landscape architecture, there's a certain understanding of just like land and how we can, how human populations impact the environment and the land. And which is very helpful. You know, there's definitely some overlaps to agriculture, but I've definitely learned a lot from my farmers, from Peace Corps. So yeah, I feel like in that sense, somewhat prepared. And then I did some project management, you know, before I came out here in work and in college. So I felt like that kind of gave me a sense of how to bring a group of people together. But it is, you know, you're never fully prepared until you start doing the thing, right?
Okay, yeah, that's true. Yeah. All right, so what would you say is your most rewarding moment here from your service? In terms of, from how long have you been here?
2 years. This March.
This March, 2 years.
Yeah, so March 2024.
Oh, March 2024.
Yes.
Okay. So over that period of time, so I know you have enjoyed a lot of time here. You do a lot of great stuff. So which one would you say is the most rewarding moment?
The most rewarding moment? Oh my goodness.
Or if you don't have one, I guess maybe 2 or 3.
Okay, I'll start with just like a simple one. I enjoy, like, if I'm ever walking through my community or like I see a new face, and you know, I just try to chat like a little patois. I'm not so good at the language thing, but just hit them with the wagwan, morning sis, like you good, everything. And when they ask me like, you come from Jamaica, like that always like makes me feel so good. So good. I feel like my community has embraced me, and that has been so rewarding, definitely. I would say a very specific moment was like after Beryl. I helped the group. I worked with my project partner and we did a grant application just to get like hurricane relief money, you know, just to help the farmers bounce back with a little bit of seed, you know, because everybody did lose their crop and everything.
Yes.
And so that was the organization United Way, who was, you know, funding the group. They came down to Neef Mountain and I was able to show them around the community. They met with the whole of the farmers group and it was just, the energy was up, everybody was full joy, you know, and that was very rewarding.
And then that would be like shortly after you got to your post.
Yeah, true. It was only, because Beryl did happen like a month after we got to our post, and then it was like the following month or two that like we were working on the grant application, and then I think another month or so that like the funds actually came through. But it was a nice experience to kind of show an outsider, you know, the community, and introduce them to this really amazing group of farmers and build their connections.
I want to say he hit the ground hard.
I try.
Alright, so what has been your most challenging part of since you've been here in Jamaica, and how have you been able to navigate that?
That's a great question. The most challenging, I think overall it is difficult to spend so much time like away from your family, or like I did feel this sense of when I first got here of like, oh, this place is so different, you know, like this is so different from like the island like Hawaii that I know. This is a very different kind of island living. And like as I was saying in the beginning, there's just like a rhythm to Jamaica, and I felt like it was kind of hard to get into that motion of like everybody in the taxi understands what's going on, but when you first get here, like you don't really understand. Everyone's chatting so fast or like so quiet, and then it's all of a sudden people are like getting out and you're like, oh, I need to move, we need to readjust. So I think there was just that sense of like not used to the pace, you know? I think getting into that was maybe the most challenging aspect of like settling into Jamaica life.
So how are you able to get around that now? So what were some of the things that you did to get basically acclimatized? Acclimatize to Jamaica.
Yes, definitely practice the language and just like go out and chat with people and you just listen. I started every time I was in the taxi, instead of like putting the headphones in or trying to like zone out or anything, just stay to myself. I would just, keep my ears on and just try and like figure out what everybody was saying and like pay attention, and then suddenly I didn't have to focus so hard on paying attention. It just became natural.
It was natural. Okay, beautiful. So how has been living in Jamaica change your worldview, and in terms of how it helped you in terms of your personal growth?
Yes, I think the greatest way, and I'm going to carry this with me for like the rest of my life, is just kind of the Jamaica no problem like attitude. Like things happen all the time, like nothing ever happens on time in Jamaica. There's always a million things that are going on, and I feel like in the US it's so like structured and rigid, very rigid, and you kind of, there's like this sense of impatience that just becomes a part of like the way that you approach life. And I feel like Jamaica is really like bashed that out of me, where it's like things happen, that's okay. Like we stick and move, and we
a sense of patience.
Exactly, patience,
cool and just
cool and relaxed, even if the little things are trying to get at you. No reason to let them get to you, right?
That's true. All right, so with that said, now can I share a moment that you felt like, I really feel like I'm a dad Jamaica, I'm a part of Jamaica, I'm fully integrated now in my community. Talk to me about that experience.
Okay. Yes, I feel like it's just whenever I'm walking through the community, like maybe I'm going to catch water up a red bank, and I'm carrying the big, like, you know, bako to fill it up at the station, and somebody stops me on the road in the bar. They call out to me and they're like, Kali, you know. I go chat with them for a little bit, and then I walk down the road. I pass by the school, and all of the school children will, you know, like run up to me and say hello, like, hi Miss Kali, hi Miss Kali. And then I'll, you know, stop by Auntie Lolo's house, and she's sitting on the veranda, and she starts chatting with me, and, you know, has me go help her in her garden to, like, pick up a few heads of broccoli so she can make a meal or something. It's just those moments, like, whenever I go out, there's just this great sense of community that it's like around every corner there's somebody I know, and they're outside, and they just want to chat.
Beautiful. And I do understand that as well, because walking in the community, person just calling to you as someone from the outside, you know, there are people, they know me now, they know my name, you know, it's easy to talk to them, you know, we can have a drink with them, we can give my domino and stuff. And definitely, I definitely understand. Yeah. So we spoke about burial.
Yes.
That was the year before, and then this year, or rather late last year, we have Hurricane Melissa, which tore across Jamaica in a wicked way. You understand? How did that affect your service and your community in terms of Hurricane Melissa?
Yes, I am in like St. Elizabeth, and St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, St. James really hit like the brunt of everything. I do think like I guess I would say like the public infrastructure in terms of like the light poles and the roads and everything fared better in kind of the junction and like Neath Mountain, Bull Savannah area of St. Elizabeth, which is more the east half of St. E. Fared better during Melissa than Beryl. But I think people's homes all across St. Elizabeth took more damage, you know, during Melissa. And then it's just totally, Melissa was horrific, you know, from like Treasure Beach west on. Santa Cruz was like a lake for a few days. It was, really shocking.
Alright, so like for example in Beryl, I said you help with grant writing and stuff. So for the recovery for Hurricane Melissa, and what role did you play in your community, if any?
Yeah, so I'm actually still working on a grant with my community. We're almost wrapping up, just getting like last price quotes for building certain things back. But in Neath Mountain, there's a lot of chicken farmers, and so many of the chicken coops, like the zinc blew off of the roof, or like it caved in and, you know, killed a lot of the fowl and everything. So we're working on getting some money to get building materials to build back those chicken coops, and hopefully, you know, build them back in a way that the structures are more sturdy. They can withstand, you know, future storms with strong winds and everything.
Okay, and so far in terms of the persons that you've been contacting, you seem positive, the outcome looking positive?
Yes, definitely positive. It is kind of that situation where we just need to make sure we have the right budget with the price quotes and we get the right amounts, and then as soon as we can send that to the grant organization, you know, they seem really excited to help out with the relief. So, and they've worked with us previously.
Okay, that's
on another project. Okay. So, yeah, they know our group.
World peace and friendship.
Alright, so how did Hurricane Melissa change all your view, resilience, and community strength here in Jamaica?
Yes, that is one thing I think. Like, I respect the Jamaican people so much just for their resilience. I've never met a people so resilient to, like, the negatives and the hardships of life. I get emotional, like, thinking about it, honestly. Just the people in my community, like, you see, like, their crops totally damaged. Maybe some of them, their entire roof blew off, but they still say, I'm here. Like, give thanks for life. Give thanks and praise for life. And it's just it's such a beautiful way to approach life. It really is like that those positive vibes, you know, that will carry you through, like, those figurative storms of life and the literal storms of life, yes. Right? But yeah, Jamaicans are just so like, yesterday a storm came through, but we're gonna pick up the pieces and we're gonna build back stronger. And that is definitely a way that I want to live my life, you know?
Oh, definitely. And with that, so what additional stuff you would say you learn from it? Like, for example, your Jamaican counterparts and that I didn't expect coming here.
Oh.
So we speak about the resilience in terms of Jamaican and all.
Right.
So, yeah, in terms of your counterparts, the persons who you're interacting with, what else you would say you learn from them that you never expect, yo, watch, I'm going to learn this from a Jamaican, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's a great question. I love working with my project partner. He's become a really good friend, and his family is just very warm and welcoming, and like whenever we go work on the farm, we end up just chilling with, you know, all of his uncles. They kind of have their houses around the same area, and his aunt has a cook shop, and so we just chill down there after the farm. And I think just that lesson of like, you know, after the day is done, just chill back and relax, like with your family, with your friends, like with those people that are most important.
Yes. And
yeah, they definitely live their life that way, where they're like, family is number one.
Yes.
And I really respect that.
Definitely. And it's like, they cannot be too hard where you can't relax.
Right. Right.
Definitely understand that. So how do you hope your work will continue and sustain after your service ends?
That is an excellent question. I really hope that the farmers group can continue with the, you know, group organization, capacity building, you know, that once they establish a vision, they can work on creating like a yearly plan. I just think that like that group organization, if you can light that fire within everybody, that's really what maintains the longevity of projects, you know? So there's kind of a lot of things that we've planned, or that the farm group president, my supervisor, would love to do, but we've been trying to do work to kind of bring the group to catch that same vision that the president has. So then they can build out those plans. And I think that's where the sustainability is if everybody's on board, right?
On board. Okay.
Yeah.
And is there any hope to like come back and work with the group or continue service here in Jamaica, or you just moving on to bigger and better things, as they would say?
No, definitely not moving on to bigger and better, but definitely staying in Jamaica for at least the next year. Okay. I've been meeting with a heritage architecture collective in like South St. Elizabeth area.
Yes.
And they do a lot of community outreach work as well, especially a lot of things since the hurricane. They've been holding a lot of like, you know, community group events where people can just come and chat with, you know, like a therapist or a counselor and each other, and, you know, share each other's stories and build each other up that way. And so, yeah, I'm working with them right now to organize a response position so I can help them build out their living museum and kind of design the grounds for that, and help establish some agriculture, you know, aspects on their living museum property.
That sounds like a wonderful idea. Just keep accessibility in mind when doing all of those great stuff, you know?
Absolutely. Yes. Of course. Accessibility is number one when you're building out a property. Yes.
All right, so but before we go though, I would like to find out from you, in terms of culturally, musical wise, otherwise, or what was the standout moment for you here in Jamaica? Have you ever went to like a show or maybe to a concert or anything? What would you say is your standout moment for you, entertainment-wise?
I would say, okay, so this was just a couple of weeks ago, but I went to a concert at Lover's Leap.
Yes.
It was Marcia Griffith and Tanya Stevenson.
Wow.
And I had a blast. Marcia Griffith, she was still like the queen, the queen of reggae. She can still rock it. Yes. She did like a tribute to Bob Marley. They did Iron Lion Zion, which was like my favorite song. And then she went into the electric slide and everybody was grooving. Yeah, so it was, that was amazing. I loved that. Felt like a little bit of history to be a part of.
Beautiful, that's wonderful. So before you go, and what would you have to say to upcoming volunteers that want to come to Jamaica? You know, even those new volunteers that are on island, or even persons generally interested just in the work that Peace Corps is doing, what advice you would have to say to them, or even just a word of encouragement?
Yes, absolutely. Just come to this island ready to embrace it. Like, let go of any expectations that you might have and just be open to what Jamaica has to offer. And it's not going to be easy. It's not easy to settle in for those first few months to honestly a year. But once you get past it, like, you fall in love. Like, Jamaica really does sink her fingers into you and you don't want to leave. It really is a beautiful place with so much energy and it's just always entertaining being here. I really love it.
All right, thank you very much, Kali, and I really happy to know that you enjoy Jamaica so much, and I appreciate the work that you have been doing over the last 2 years, and it seems like you'll be continuing, and I love that. So thanks again, and looking forward to hearing more great things from you.
Thank you, Shaba. This was great to chat with you today.
World peace and friendship.
That's all for today, friends. Thanks for tuning in. Want to keep the conversation going? Leave a comment or post a question on our YouTube channel or connect with us on Instagram and Facebook. And don't forget to check out the Peace Corps Jamaica local website. Let's keep spreading world peace and friendship. Until next time, peace out. This Peace Corps Jamaica production is produced and hosted by Shavane Daley, graphics and text by Peace Corps Jamaica Social Media Committee, and background music by Damian Rose.